Hey friends, it's Russ here again, having more Daisy Lever gun fun. And I want to show you something here. We're going to put this in the category of problem solving. A while back, I gave some information about this gun here that was done in Air Force Blue. And it's cool. It's a Model 102, or Model 36, number 102. And I didn't have all the parts for it. I didn't have a trigger. I didn't have a lever. Didn't have the bolts. That's why, even though it's an older gun, you see I've got the modern bolts in here. I just put some of those in. It did have the shot tube and the spring retainer, which was a bonus, but I've been working on it. So I ran into a little issue. I put things together. I took a old aluminum lever of the same era. It had the 3-star motif down here, kind of like that. And I painted it up and decided I was going to install that in there. I found from my store of goodies, I have some of these old style metal triggers, the folded steel. And I knew that if I took it apart, I could get a good look at the plunger assembly. Neither one of these came out of that gun. But everything looked good. I put it together. Sure enough, I could not get it to cock. I could not get it to, even whenever the cocking lever was pushed back all the way so that this notch was rubbing against the front of the cocking lever, it was not far enough to engage the little notch, which would be a sear on other guns, and hold back the plunger assembly back here. Normally what you're going to find is you cock the gun, this rides back, gets caught in here. When you pull the trigger, boom, goes forward. Scratching my head, wondering what in the world, because everything seemed to work in the guns that I took these parts out of. So I started playing around with different ideas. I thought, well, maybe I should change the plunger. Maybe if I bent the tang on the back here or reground it. Really was scratching my head. Then I suddenly realized something. Just because something works in an old gun doesn't mean it's going to work in another old gun because of differences in wear. Maybe where the gun was produced at the time came out of a different factory on a different machine or something. It's real critical to have enough stock on the front of this cocking lever to push that plunger. See if I can get this lined up for you. Push that plunger back all the way. It has to catch in there and push it back. There are some differences in these, especially if you're trying to build a gun and you can't get it to do that. You might want to check this first. I told you I had to put in a trigger from another takeout gun. Not all triggers wear the same. And I'm going to line this up just so I can hold that tight and show you something here. See if you get a good look at this. The notch sits back a little further on this one, the one that's not painted, versus the one that is, even whenever you line them up tightly. And so that means that this plunger has to go back just that much further. This, on the aluminum lever, they all wear down up here in the front when they get old. And to show you the differences in these, this is a 3-star type. This is a regular Daisy aluminum alloy lever, just has the Daisy name. This one back here is a 3-star type. The one on the end here is one of the new plastic levers. This one is kind of beat up, but still in good shape on the front. So I bolted these together so the pivot points would all be exactly the same. Make sure that this notch that rides through would be exactly the same. This is exactly the same, but if you look at the front, you've got 3 different lengths. The newer one, the new plastic one, is the longest. This one is worn down a bit more, and this one is worn down the most. 3 different lengths, even though they're all Daisy levers, and they're all actually made to function in the same type receivers. And if you look at the one that I had here, it's worn down somewhere between this one and this one, if you look at the angles on those. So it wasn't the problem with the trigger, it wasn't a problem with the plunger, it was simply that lever wasn't pushing it back far enough. So what I did with this gun is I put on a new plastic lever, plenty strong enough, and I know there's no spring to hold the trigger forward, but let's see if gravity will help us out here. Now, there. It pushes it back plenty far enough. If there were a spring holding that, it would be there. So you come up, releases the plunger, everything's copacetic. Well, just a little thought here. Whenever you are trying to rebuild a gun, or you're trying to switch parts on some of these, and you have a problem engaging the plunger onto the end of the trigger, especially on these older guns, always check and make sure that you have enough throw on the cocking lever. Now this is a newer style, it's not the newest, but it's a newer style lever, and this does have the sear as part of the assembly, and when it comes up, it has to catch those also, has to catch the end of the cocking lever. That, on the newer guns, takes the place of this notch. So make sure everything's in line, and make sure that you have enough play to be able to catch everything in there. If it's too tight, if things don't go back far enough, or if your notches don't line up to the end of the plunger, that could be your problem. Well, little problem solving today here. Like hearing from you. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button so that you'll get notices. We can talk, and have a great day.